गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Om. Okay. Today is Sunday. We take Gita. So we were discussing the 19th shloka. We discussed, which meant that Yahaiva tairjita sargo yesham samye sthitam manah nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani taya sthitah. The enlightened person or a jnani, yesham samye sthitam manah, whose mind stays or rests in the samyam. Samyam means equality. So, samyam means that stays in steadiness. In fact, samyam, the sama word which he is using in the previous shloka, samadarshinaha. In this present 19th shloka, samyam, samam brahma. Sama doesn't mean equal. Sama means steady and undisturbed, unwavering, non-fluctuating. Okay, it is the quality of the mind he is talking. The mind remains undisturbed, not fluctuating, not getting elated and depressed. So samadarshinaha. In the 18th previous shloka, sama is Brahma, because Brahma is one which is uniform. Whereas when we perceive the worldly objects are not in the same way. Objects are good and bad and high and low. There are several objects. Therefore, in the perception, high and low are natural. But here an enlightened person remains uniform. Uniform means remains undisturbed. He sees one underlying truth behind the all superficial varying things. Things are varying. People are of not same nature in their physical capacity, mental, intellectual, money, social status. Person to person, there is a variation. So we generally taking the go by the value of a person to me in my personal life. That means how much that person means to me. Either socially, if a person is very important to me, means socially he is useful to me. He has got money and power. Then I'll take interest in him. Isn't it? So, if he is so like this, we physically also, socially, economically, we attach different values to the people. Accordingly, we take interest to somebody as a more and somebody as a less. All this is normal life. Here an enlightened man, he sees behind all the people there is one unvarying consciousness, that he himself is that changeless witness, changeless sakshi, and also the behind all this apparent world is also one existence, the one pure existence, Atma, unvarying, unchanging. He sees behind him as well as the behind the world. Therefore, he sees the one truth. Sees means he intuits. Samadarshi means he intuits the one Brahman, unfluctuating, changeless, uniform. Okay, he intuits Brahman behind all these people. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, with a Brahmana, cow, elephant, a dog, a Chandala, and Antyaja, all these people. Now coming to the 19th shloka too we have discussed. But just so we just revise a little and go to the next shloka. Brahma is nirdosha. Brahma is free from any defect. Free from any defect means free. Where there is a defect, where there is a defect, there will be a quality also, isn't it? Good and bad, useful and useless, they go together. So in the world, every object has certain quality, certain power. So that quality may be useful to you in a given context, may not be useful in another context. So Brahman is free from any utilitarian or a relative value. Relative means relational. Value in relations. So relational value or psychological value or physical material value. Brahman has neither material value, nor economic value, nor social value, nor your emotional value, nor your intellectually weighing and comparing and contrasting. See, Atma is not available for intellectual comparison, contrast, and evaluate it. So, nirdosham samam Brahma means Brahma is beyond the quality. Beyond the quality only means that it only, so this quality is a very peculiar technical term in Vedanta. It has to be understood. Brahman or the one's own self being the absolute. Absolute cannot be evaluated in terms of your intellectual value. Means an idea, a concept is more important to you compared to the another concept and another idea. This is intellectual value. Then emotional value. You like it, you love it, you are interested in it, therefore you feel emotionally more appealing to you. Other one is less appealing to you. So this emotional appeal fluctuates from person to person, object to object. Then the next is social value. Socially an important person. Economic value, how much money he holds or how much he will be useful to me in my making money. And political, all these values will be fluctuating. One has got more, one has less. Brahman being the one existence underlying the entire universe itself cannot be evaluated, because all evaluations, all evaluated values are in relationship with somebody. To a jiva, an individual jiva, in his relationship with other thing or another person, you can evaluate. See, the value of anything, the book is, let us take a book. How valuable is the book? Depending upon the value of the book can be evaluated from various levels. First is the price, marketing value. Second is the subject, content in it. If you love the subject, you are interested, then you feel it's more important. Now, the subject matter dealt in the book is valuable to you again depending upon if you give the value to it. Means if you are interested in that value. Giving value means if you are interested. Then what kind of value is it? Supposing the subject matter is an economics or politics or social idea, it will be useful to you in society or in politics. If it is an atheistic, if it is a aesthetic value, then if you are an artist or a poet, then you have an aesthetic value. If you are a Vedantin, then it is useful to you. So the value also to the person who is interested, it carries the value. Value is, there are many values. See, value of the book. One is, it being an old book, you have an antique value. Historical, it's a very antique, very, very ancient book. Of course, thousands of years, 2000 years ago, this Bhagavad-Gita existed, or even 5000. So it is an antique value. Other is marketing value. Third is an emotional value. That your father used it, your Guruji used it. Therefore, Guruji used the book, so let me have it. I want to keep it because you have, out of your respect for your Guruji, or your father or grandfather, you feel my grandfather used the book, I want to retain it. Whenever I look at it, I feel that I am reminded of my father, grandfather or Guruji, whomever. So this is an emotional value. Another is book is holy, then it is a religious value. See how the value of the book can be seen from the different angles. All these angles are related to the person who has the value, who has an interest in it, isn't it? That's why we say it is a relational value. The book comes to have a relation, the book comes to have a value in a relationship. When you look, relation means a relation related to a person who is interested in that value. Okay, so it is a relative value, and these values keep fluctuating also. If you have two books, one book is a more, another is less. See again, one is different scales of value. One is emotional value, economic value. The economic means marketing value, historical, all these things. Another is the value of the book is more or less compared to another book. Like this, these are all called qualities. Qualities or defects. If a more value, it is a quality. If you feel it is a negative value, then it is a defect. But Brahman himself is not available for any relative values, because it is not a relative phenomenon. It is an absolute truth. Absolute truth is not related to something, a given standpoint. When all standpoints get dissolved, it is all inclusive. Therefore, you can't say anything. See, a distance is a relational matter. Time is a relational matter, isn't it? Distance, how far is it? Then it is a relational matter. Time is a relational matter. Then object also. Object means a quality of an object. Again is a relational. But truth itself is absolute. It is valuable to whom? There is no, to whom means a person in a given context, in a given condition. Okay, a person in a given context or a given condition holds a value, of a thing, of a given thing. So Brahman being all pervasive, absolute, Atma is all pervasive, absolute, underlying the entire universe, including me and the world and everybody. So who is relating to Atman? I am the very Atman. You and we are all the same. When it is myself, there is no myself and another self which is related to me. How am I related to myself? I am myself. I am everything to me. I cannot be compared with anything else. Everything else comes secondary, and I am the absolute. My relation with myself is absolute, because me and me, there are no two me. There is only one. Therefore, in the absolute Atma, there is no another standpoint from which you look at the Atma. Therefore, it cannot be evaluated in physical, social, economic, aesthetic value, emotional value, religious value, spiritual value, intellectual value, philosophical. All these values Atma doesn't have. Therefore, he says, Nirdosham hi samam Brahma. Brahma is uniform. Uniform means it is all pervasive and one and absolute Brahman. It is nirdosham. It is free from any relative values, any comparative, relative, evaluatable value, because it is absolute. It is everything. It is everything. Therefore, nirdosham hi samam Brahma. One who intuits that Atman as himself, then that Atma cannot be weighed, cannot be valued, cannot be judged, evaluated from any angle, because all angles are limited. All standpoints are limited. So, Brahman, to understand the Atma, to understand Brahman means you drop all standpoints. You drop all standpoints, all angles of looking, you stay as Brahman. You stay as the absolute truth. Then that you are the truth, then you and the Brahman, you are the absolute truth. There is no distance, there is only one non-dual. In that one non-dual, no relations, no relational values, no interest, no relations. Therefore, it cannot be judged as a good or bad or important, unimportant, more important, less important, valuable, invaluable, less valuable, more valuable. All these things don't exist. Therefore, he says, Nirdosham. See, the word nirdosham, it looks a simple word, but it is a Vedantic term. Nirdosham means dosha is a defect, dosha is a less value or more value. Bhashakara Shankaracharya says here, dosha means dosha guna. He is negating both dosha and guna. Guna is a positive quality, dosha is a negative quality. Negative means a deficiency, a plus point, a minus point. Okay, a plus point and a minus point. A value in it, or it lacks a value. It is a defective. Dosha means a defect. When Brahman is free from defect, means Brahman is free from quality also. He neither has a deficiency nor has a quality. Neither quality nor deficiency. That means Atma, being absolute, cannot be evaluated either as good and bad or less or more or high or low, because there is no standpoint. There is no standpoint with which you can evaluate, because it includes all the standpoints. It includes all people, all world, everything is oneself. Like in deep sleep. In that absolute self, there is nothing other than you. There is no standpoint other than Brahman. That means there is no individual other than the Atma. All individuals are the Atma. So, you are not a somebody, a given person relating to Brahman or relating to Atman. If you are a one person relating to somebody, so then the question of value comes to me. How much the thing means to me. You take, as I gave you example of a book. How much is the value to me of the book? How much book is valuable to me? How much a house is valuable to me? How much a person is valuable to me? If a person is your relative or you are a beloved person, then he is more valuable to you. If he is not beloved, not even friend, not even your national, just as another person, you may not attach so much importance to him. Or if he is a positively problematic fellow, then you consider him as a more problematic, you want to avoid also. So, the value of a person depends upon who is relating to him. Okay? The person who relates to is a standpoint, an individual. To that individual, there is a value. Brahman has no value. When we say Brahman is beyond qualities, you must have heard Brahma is nirguna, Paramatma is nirguna, beyond all qualities, or not beyond, they say quality less. See how they translate. Brahman is quality less, attribute less. In philosophy, in Vedanta, Brahman is nirguna. Nirguna means without attributes. Now you see how people understand Brahman is without attributes. It's a very strange. I tell you, you need a tradition. You need a guru to help you to understand. Even we all have to learn. I also learned from my guru only. So, otherwise the human mind itself works within relationships alone. When human mind remaining what it is, it tries to understand, it brings everything into its relative status. Mind can function only in relations. Just now I have given the social, physical, aesthetic, intellectual, philosophical, religious. These are all relations. These are all interests. Okay. So, human mind works only in these relationships alone. Then when we say Brahman means as a truth, as something, an absolute fact, which is beyond all these relations and interests. It is beyond all these relations. It is beyond all these interests. Therefore, you cannot take a stand and from that stand relate to Brahman, because Brahman is unrelatable. Cannot be related to whom? To anybody, to any standpoint, because from the standpoint of Brahman, everything is itself. There is no standpoint other than Brahman. That means there is no individual. There is no standpoint to relate to Brahman. In the absence of a standpoint from which you can relate to Brahman, then Brahman cannot be evaluated in terms of any values. Social, economic, aesthetic, just now I mentioned you, etc. There are so many angles of looking. So Brahman cannot be evaluated either as a good and bad or more or less and all this thing. That means Brahman is beyond any evaluations. When we say Brahman is nirguna, the problem is they translate literally, they translate. Nirguna, guna is quality, nirguna, quality less. Is this the way you understand Vedanta? They take literal meaning like a dictionary meaning and try to see that. That is a defect. That's why Vedanta should be seen as a Vedanta. Therefore, you require a Vedantic guru and disciple also. The student of Vedanta, he should be a student of Vedanta to understand Atma. To understand Vedanta, he should be a student of Vedanta. He should be a jignasu. If he's just a curious person, academic person or something else, then he will go by the normal other worldly explanation. Then all that goes wrong. All these accusations, misunderstanding, misinterpretations are because you are not approaching Vedanta as a right student. If you are a jignasu, if you are a sadhaka, if you want to understand the truth, then then teacher also. I tell you, most important is find out a right guru. Who is a right guru? Who understood Vedanta as a Vedanta. Not out of curiosity, not out of an intellectual, for any degree or anything, not any other thing. He wanted to understand the truth for himself. To understand the truth and get liberated from the samsara, and he wants to be that same Atma. He wants to discover, he wants to intuit himself to be Brahman. Then such a person who has understood, he can help you, he can explain to you the right way. Okay. Therefore, Brahman Nirguna means, see, Nirdosham hi samam Brahma. Nirdosham, Nirgunam, both means the same thing. Because Guna and Dosha are opposite to each other. Same thing, not opposite. They are only same thing of a higher value. I mean, positive value is Guna, negative value is Dosha. Both are values alone. So, Nirdosham, Nirgunam Brahma, when we say, it doesn't, they translate it as attributeless. Attributeless means valueless. Valueless means it cannot be evaluated. It is beyond all values. Why? First understand what is the idea of value. What is the idea of value? When and where you have this value? How? When you are an individual, you have a standpoint. From that you look at it, you have an interest in it, and from that angle you look at any object. That object comes to have a certain value. More value, less value. That's why you call it a deficiency, then you call it dosha. More value, then you call it a quality. Okay. Quality and a defect. Means positive value, negative value. More value or less value. Now, Brahman cannot be evaluated. It can't, because Brahman is not a given thing with which you can relate to. Okay? Brahman is not a given thing which you can relate to, which you can use it. It is not a usable object. It is not a relatable object. Then, to understand the Brahman, you cease to be a jiva. You cease to be an individual who has a standpoint, who has got an interest, physical, social, intellectual, all these things I have narrated so far. So, he doesn't have a given standpoint because he himself is not an individual. He transcends his mind, he transcends his individuality, then see it as it is. That means you are the Brahman. When you are the Brahman, then there is only one truth, which is a non-dual, absolute, all-pervasive, all-inclusive. Then in that standpoint, as if it is not a standpoint, absolute is not a standpoint in fact, but just to show the contrast, to negate all standpoints, I am calling it standpoint. Otherwise, it is not a standpoint. Brahman or absolute truth is not a standpoint. Just a second. So, any given, an individual with sense organs and mind and body, he looks at it. Then the question of value, interest and all that comes. So the very standpoint which comes to have a value, an interest, a relation, itself is negated or transcended. You transcend the individuality, transcend the bodily identity, individual, mind and sense organs, social, economic, all that goes away. When you transcend the very individual jiva, you are the same truth. And the truth itself cannot be. Therefore, free from qualities, free from attributes means free from a standpoint other than Brahman. See, this is the way you have to understand Nirgunam. Nirgunam means free from any, means you don't stand as an individual having a standpoint from which you relate to Brahman, you look at Brahman. Brahman is not available to relationship because there is no standpoint to which you can relate to Brahman. Brahman is something where all standpoints are negated. All standpoints, all relationships are negated. It is a non-relational absolute one. In that absolute existence, absolute consciousness, where there is no relationships at all, then tell me, what is the quality? In this sense, no evaluation of good and bad and high and low. Okay. In this sense, we say Brahman is nirdosham, nirgunam, free from all qualities. See how beautiful it is. In Vedantic understanding, to be free from all qualities means this. Okay. So, to be free from qualities beyond all attributes is not a concept. It is not an object. See, it is not an object, therefore it is not a concept. You can't say it is beyond all qualities. They are thinking it as a Brahman is another object and trying to relate to it, trying to think of it. That whole this goes wrong. Therefore, it has to be understood in a Vedantic way. A right Vedantic guru, right traditional guru explains, this is how just now I told you. So it is an absolute. No standpoint, no individuality. Generally, we stand as an individual and then look at an object. We stay as an individual. We take a stand and then relate to other thing. So you are already an individual, you have already taken a stand, through that you are looking at something. Then whichever you look, it comes to have some value, some guna. Isn't it? Anything, any object or anything comes to have some value. But when we say Brahman is beyond qualities, okay, Brahman is beyond qualities, it means it is not a description about Brahman. It is a description about how you are supposed to look at it. See, you are generally looking at Brahman as an individual in a given standpoint, try to relate to Brahman. He says, negate the very individuality, negate all the standpoints and just stay as Brahman. Now, no relation, no standpoint other than Brahman. You are that alone. That cannot be, that is not a relationship. See, generally the word that and this is again a relation. See, the very word pronoun in English, this near, that away. So it is this and that is related to me, the speaker. To the speaker you say this. What is near, you called this. What is little away, you called that. What is still far away, remote is only that, you call it. So this, that and this is also relational names. Related to whom? To me, an individual. So, Brahman is absolute when we say there is no individual. Trying to relate to Brahman, the very individuality is negated. All the standpoints are negated. There is only one consciousness, one existence, pure, all-pervasive, all-inclusive, non-dual existence, non-dual consciousness, absolute one. That absolute is naturally qualityless, attributeless. Qualityless doesn't mean is a defective. People think nirgunam means qualityless. Qualityless is a defective, they think. You see, even to think of a quality and no quality, quality and defect itself is again you are thinking in terms of quality only. So when we say Brahman is without quality, we are not talking in terms of quality, okay? We are not talking the qualities of Brahman. We are not describing Brahman. Quality means the very standpoints are not there. The relational value is not there. The relative person, an individual, a standpoints, all these things are negated. You are the absolute. In the absolute, the very measurement of interests, the measurement, the evaluation, the relation, the interests, all these things don't exist. It is everything. Therefore, we call it nirdosham hi samam brahma. So, Brahma is nirdosham. And his mind stays in that Brahman which is a steady, Mind remains steady in that. Steady means not a fluctuating standpoints, not a changing standpoint. In any other object, you can look at an object from a given standpoint. Again, you can look at it from another standpoint. A thing can be looked from various standpoints. Then various values can be attributed it. Brahman cannot be looked from various standpoints because all standpoints are negated in one truth. Okay, therefore, there is no relative value of more or less or high or low. Okay? Appa. So much of noise. Okay, it's little less. So, it's not available for any kind of measurement. Any kind of measurement means relations. Why? To relate, you have to stand as a one person, a given standpoint, then relate to. All standpoints are included in Atma alone. You can't take a stand. You can't take a standpoint. Because there is no standpoint other than Brahma. Okay, so that absolute is not available for any relations, any standpoint, any evaluations of good and bad and high and low. That absolute state, absolute, not call it, we can't call it a state. We can call it neither as a quality, nor relation, nor state. All these words are again relatives. The quality, the relation, the state, what do you call it? The standpoint, all these things don't apply. Oh my God. Okay, so this absolute Brahman is qualityless. Quality means he is asking you to drop your individuality, the standpoints, the relational. You cease to be a relative person. You cease to be an individual. Okay? You cease to look at the things through sense organs and mind and as an individual. When you drop your very individuality, you remain as a pure existence. You remain as a pure consciousness, the same. You are one with the consciousness. Then you and consciousness are two things, not two things. There is only one universal consciousness, all pervasive, all inclusive, all existence, absolute. In that absolute, now you should say, what is the value of it? All values, all relationships, all things just get dissolved. All get negated, all get dissolved. That is called Nirgunam. Nirgunam is yourself. How do you relate to yourself? How far you are from yourself? Being me to myself. Me to myself, you can't have a relationship of good and bad. Are you good to you? Are you bad to you? Neither. Are you away from you? Are you near you? Neither. Because to yourself, neither, no relationship. Near and far, they don't exist. To yourself, because in that one truth which is just myself, therefore, tasmat brahmanite sthitaha. They stay in Brahman. They stay as Brahman. That means they melt away their individuality, negate the individual standpoints of the mind and sense organs and the body. They detach. They de-identify from the body, de-identify from the mind and sense organs, and stay as a Brahman. Therefore, samya sthitam manaha, whose mind is no more a mind. Samyam means what? Stays in Brahman. Otherwise, mind means a relation, a standpoint and a relation. Whose mind is beyond all relationship, beyond all standpoint. That means there is no mind. See, yesham samya sthitam mana, whose mind stays in that oneness. Staying in that oneness means what? Mind ceases to be mind, mind becomes the absolute. Mind, when it is away from the absolute, then relational comes. When the mind ceases to be mind, that's because you have no standpoint. See, if you take a one point of space, then the distance comes. There is a space without point. This is idea good. When you have a point of space, from that point you measure another point, a distance, an idea of distance comes. Then an idea of a front and back and left and right and up and down, all these things. Okay. Where is up and down? To the point. If you keep a point, there is up and down. There is a left and right. Only if there is a point in the center. Then the front and back. Suppose you erase the point. Tell me where is up and down? You melt away. You erase the very point. You don't take a point of space. There is a space, no point. Okay? If you take a point of space, a location, then the distance and relationships come. Now you are a space without any point. Tell me, is there a front and back, left and right, up and down, far and near? No near and no far, because no idea of near and far. This is called Nirguna. Nirguna, don't imagine. You cannot understand Nirguna as a concept. You stand as the truth. That is Nirguna. You drop your individuality and stand as Brahman. That is Nirguna. Nirguna is not a description of Brahman. Okay? The word Nirguna, the word attributeless Brahman, the attributelessness is not a description of Brahman. It is a Vedantic teaching. It is helping you to drop all your standpoints as an individual, then stay as a Brahman. You intuit by dropping all this individuality. Then what remains? A self-existing, self-shining Atma. That is Brahman. Okay. Like deep sleep. If you talk of deep sleep, see, it's a very interesting example. See, it's not example, it's directly the truth. How do you talk about deep sleep? Any description, any quality you talk, you are talking as a person living in waking state. And the waking mind is trying to relate to deep sleep. It is the waking mind trying to relate to deep sleep. And through the mind, how do you say, oh, it was a past event? See, you call deep sleep as a past. Who is telling? Is the waking mind. And it says it is all blank. Who is telling? Waking mind. It is a past. It is a blank. There's nothing in it. And how do you relate to that? See, any relationship, any description, it is the waking mind talking. I say, dissolve the very waking mind and waking individuality. You are the deep sleep. As you are in the deep sleep, you have no mind. You dropped the mind and stay yourself. When you drop the mind, give up the mind, you are the deep sleep. Now tell me, what is deep sleep? You describe. You can't describe. That is qualityless. Because it is yourself. You can't describe yourself because there is no relationship with you and with your own self. You and you, there are no two yous, there is only one. In that one non-dual, no distance, no relationship, no qualities can be described. Either by comparison or contrast or so, anything, none of them you can describe. Therefore, this is called beyond quality. Okay. Nirguna means, in this sense, it is beyond quality. Therefore, a person, an enlightened person, who Brahma is nirdosham, and whose mind is one with that Brahman, he stays as a Brahman. Therefore, Brahman is qualityless and he is that Brahman. Then what happens? Yahaiva tairjito sargaha. Right here, he transcends that sarga. Sarga means srishti, creation, or a birth. He transcends the birth. He gives up the birth. He conquers the birth. Birth means individuality. Birth and death pertain to individuality. That means he transcends individuality. He conquers individuality. He is no more an individual, subject to birth and death and relationship of good and bad and gain and loss, going and coming, all these things to an individual. When you are absolute, coming and going doesn't exist. No birth and death, no gain and loss, no mine and others, mine and yours, all the relationships, all the qualities, all of them melt away. There is only just one non-dual truth. Okay. Then he has conquered, Yahaiva Tairjita Sargaha. He has conquered the birth. Birth means death also. Birth and death implies an individuality. That means he is not an individual. He is not looking as an individual. He is not related to others. See, that staying as an individual and relating to other itself is samsara. That is jivahood. So Brahman, one who intuits Brahman, melts away or transcends his jivahood, his individuality. Then in that absolute truth, there is no quality. He transcends, he becomes free from all death and birth and sufferings. All samsara is gone. Okay. Now this is another way of explaining the 19th shloka. As I tell you, these shlokas are such a beautiful one. Each time you think some new angle of new depth of new way of looking comes. Bah, amazing. I say this Bhagavad-Gita is not a simple book. It's not just you read once and you understand. It's not just a one time or two times reading. It's a contemplation. Each shloka is an amazingly beautiful. It is. You discuss the same shloka again and again and again. Again some new ideas come, new understanding comes. Because the shloka contains so much of depth in it. Because another thing is, it is a Vedantic way, not a descriptive Shastra. It is not a book of description or logical analysis. It is a transcending all limitations, all limitations of time, space, object, everything, and staying as Brahman. You intuit yourself as the Brahman. Brahman means the absolute truth. So it is discovery of yourself, discovery of your Brahman. Therefore, each shloka is helping you, pointing out the discovery. In this, your earlier state as an individual gets melted away. It melts away. Okay. Then coming to the next shloka. Yasman nirdosham samam brahma atma tasmat. Then how does Jnani live? That was the question. So we were discussing the shlokas, just to remind you, from 17th to 25th. Okay? From 17th to 25th, Jnaninam Vyavaharaha. How does Jnani understand himself? How does he relate it to other world? All these things is discussing. The 17th, 18th, 19th we have finished. Then come to the 20th one. Na prahrushyet priyam prapya, no dvijayat prapya cha priyam, sthira buddhirasam mudo brahmavid brahmani sthitaha. 20th shloka. How does he behave? Na prahrushyet priyam prapya. Priyam, when something desirable, as something beloved, as something likable, what you can like, something, what you like comes to you. Priyam prapya. When you find something which is lovable to you, which is favorable to you, which is appealing to you. Okay? When you find something appealing, both physically, socially, economically, in any ways, you get some money, you find a person whom you love very much, or an object or anything. Priya. Priya is a very broad word. Whatever appeals to you, whatever pleases you. If that prahrushyet, if a beloved thing, a desirable thing, a lovable thing comes to you means approaches you, you get related to it, or you acquire it. What happened? Na prahrushyet. These people are making a lot of, they are building some house here, just by the side of my window. Lot of noise they are making. Na prahrushyet. So a person, that enlightened person, who understands himself to be Atma, is free from rejoicing, elation. When you find, generally people, when you find something, a lovable thing, a desirable object, you feel rejoice. You come to a good mood. You feel happy that if I got it. Something pleasant, something lovable, you acquire, you get it. Your mood goes up. Modern English they call is goosebumps. I don't know what is goosebumps. I don't understand. They keep on changing English. They give new words. Our English of our days was different. Nowadays, we get a lot of American English, I think. All slangs are coming, American slangs are coming. And I find difficult to understand. Goosebumps, they say. I have to say what goosebumps means. Probably a rejoicing. Probably you feel elated and joyous, probably. Goosebumps. So, na prahurushayat priyam prapya. When something desirable, interesting, valuable comes to you, you acquire it. Oh, you are not the same person because you feel that something elated, rejoice. Then nodvijayat prapya cha priyam. When something unpleasant, undesirable comes to you, you become udvega, you get disturbed. You get disturbed, become uncomfortable, sad. Disturbed means you feel sad, uncomfortable, unhappy. But a jnani is beyond these two kind of reactions. Here two things are there. Time is up. Anyway, I'll touch a little bit and discuss more in the next class. One is perception. Your sense organs perceive something or you think of something. Through mind you remember. You think of something. You think or remember. With sense organs you are in touch with something. We call this perception or remember, memory. Perception and thought. With sense organs you perceive something. With mind you think of something whom you love or like, or both. You may like, you may not like. Means a thought of a thing or object comes to your mind. With sense organs you perceive, or with mind you conceive. Conceive means you think of it, you relate to it. These are the two relationships. Whenever you think of something through mind, or whenever you perceive means all five sense organs you perceive. These perceptions naturally produce some pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Okay, one is in the perception. Perception with the mind, perception with sense organs. Perception with sense organs known to us. Perception with mind means thinking of it, remembering it. This is what it is. Thinking of it or remembering it. Okay, with your emotion. You remember something. You think of something. A person or an object or something. Money, you think of it. You feel elated. Isn't it? A news comes to you. You got money. Somebody told you you won some money. The very news comes to you. It is only a thought. It is not a physical perception. A thought that you got money, it gives you joy. So here, when you acquire something, mentally you think, with the mind you think of something, a gain or something, a gain or honor or something, or physically you perceive something. These two, whenever there is a perception, whenever there is a thought of it, naturally, instinctively, a kind of pleasant and unpleasant experiences come to you. Perception inevitably produces pleasant and unpleasant experience. In summer, when you touch a cold thing, you feel very happy. In winter, cold gives you trouble. You have a warm clothing, or you go inside the house, you feel warm and nice. See, this perception naturally brings a pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Sensory experiences of pleasant and unpleasant. Emotional experiences of pleasant and unpleasant. Okay, so a perception brings pleasant and unpleasant experience. This is natural, common to all. This is natural. It is instinctive. Nobody can stop it. But why is it telling like this shloka? Shloka says that in all the perceptions with your sense organs, when they come in touch with external objects, this is called sense and sense object relational. So you are continuously related to sense and sense objects. Your sense organs are in continuously touch with object. The objects keep changing, but there is some or other continuous perception. So in this perception, good and bad and pleasant and unpleasant experiences come. They are natural and inevitable. Nobody can stop. Now here what is it talking is your mind's reaction. One is natural perception. In the wake of natural perception, there is a pain and pleasure. There is a pleasant and unpleasant experience. But to this experience of pleasant and unpleasant, your mind starts reacting. It rejoices. When it finds a pleasant experience, nice, you feel. The mind's reaction is you feel happy. When there is an unpleasant experience, you feel sad. So this rejoicing or getting depressed, this rejoicing or feeling sad, these are the reactions of the mind. Okay? One is there is a natural pleasant and unpleasant experiences in the wake of perception. In the wake of perception, there is a pleasant, unpleasant experience is one. That is instinctive, that nobody can stop. But your mind reacts, that depends upon your samskara. If your mind reacts, oh, it feels elated, I got it, very nice, I'm very happy. This changes from person to person. Some people react, oh, the very joys they cannot control, oh, he will jump and he will shake hands, or he will shake hand, he will hug people, he will jump. So this is a reaction. When the pleasant experience comes, you react it. When unpleasant comes, you feel very sad. Some people are sad, but they don't show up. They will remain, they don't show up on their face. They remain as if naturally. Some people cannot control it. It instantly seen on their faces. If you feel little disturbed, you can see him on his face. Some people, even if he is disturbed, it doesn't show up. Inside he is disturbed, but outside, he smiles. He shakes hands, but a corner of mind that he is disturbed. So, this is a reaction of your mind. One is instinctive, another is a reaction of the mind. The reaction of the mind can be, you can advise a person, don't react. This is where karma yoga says. Karma yoga or bhakti tells you, you react, don't react to your pleasant and unpleasant experiences of life. Take it as a God's blessing, or take it as a leela of God. It is a natural of the world. Therefore, your emotional reactions you can subside. Okay. Emotional reactions you can bring down. Not totally, completely, but to a large extent. But this comes under Karma Yoga. Okay. The mind remains relaxed. It takes it little coolly. It won't get violent. It won't react violently. It cools down. It remains, cools down. Mind remains, cools down. Pleasant. Mind remains relaxed, silent, tranquil mind, undisturbed mind. Disturbances of two types, both elation, rejoicing is also disturbance. Because when you are rejoiced, your perception changes. You won't be in a natural condition of seeing the things as they are. When your mind rejoices or when your mind is sad, both the things disturb your observation, your understanding. Okay, so the mind shouldn't react. So you help the mind, you learn how not to react. That means you let your mind be natural enthusiasm. Take it lightly. Don't take it to your heart and feel disturbed. Take it little lightly. Even if you are successful, take it lightly. Even if you are a loser, if you lose a game, something, or if you are defeated, take it lightly. So the mind's reactions you can control to certain extent. Now here, enlightened man is talking. A jnani. You mean it is only a mental reactions? A jnani is free from reactions alone? No. That freedom from reaction, even as a sadhaka, he did it as a karma yogi. As a karma yogi, he learnt it. Now, he is much more than that. So, he doesn't react. It means the reaction is individuality. It is an individuality that reacts. He transcends the very reacting individuality. That means he discovers himself as a sakshi. Sakshi is free from individuality. It is individuality that reacts. So, jnani stands as a sakshi, as a witnessing consciousness, like in deep sleep. He doesn't stay as an individual. He transcends individuality and stays as a sakshi. At an individual level, there are reactions. There are reactions at the individual level, but he transcends that individuality and stays as a sakshi. As a level of sakshi, as a sakshi, at the level of the sakshi, no reaction is possible. So neither he gets rejoices nor feels sad. Sakshi is always happy, ever happy. Sakshi neither increases nor decreases, neither rejoices nor feels depressed. Sakshi is untouched by these emotional states, emotional reactions. Because Sakshi is not the one who identifies with the mind and sense organs. It is the individuality that is in the state of identification with the mind and sense organs and body. It is an individual jiva, karta bhokta, the agent of action and experiencer. The experiencer jiva he is in identification with the mind and body and sense organs, he reacts. Because naturally he gets pleasant and unpleasant experience, then he reacts. He either rejoices or feels sad. Here Jnani transcends the individuality. It doesn't stay as an individual. Therefore, he stays as a Sakshi who is beyond all these reactions. So, na prahurshet priyam prapya. He understands himself to be Sakshi beyond the individuality. It is individuality that reacts. He ceases to be an individual. That means he transcends his individuality, stays as a Sakshi. So there may be reactions from the mind level, but he himself is beyond the mind, like in deep sleep. He is the pure consciousness, which is beyond all reactions. Okay, this point we have to discuss a little more. We'll discuss in the next class. 20th shloka, remember. Okay, 3 levels. One is perception level. Pleasant and unpleasant perceptions are natural, instinctive. Second is your individual, that is the ego or jiva who reacts, an experiencer who reacts. Third level is a Sakshi, who has neither perception, he is only consciousness. Sense organ level, there is a perception. Individual level, that is an experiencer level, there are reactions. You become rejoicing or sadness. As a Sakshi level, neither you have a pleasant, unpleasant experience, nor you have a reactions of good and bad, elated and depressed, rejoicing and getting sad, becoming sad. These 2 reactions you don't have because you are not an experiencer jiva. A jiva is the one who identifies with the mind and sense organs and stays as an individual experiencer. He understands he is a pure consciousness beyond all experiences, means beyond the reactions of rejoicing and sadness. Sakshi is beyond rejoicing and sadness. He remains all the time uniformly happy. Uniformly happy. Okay? This much tentatively. This point we have to little elaborate. We'll discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.